and welcome to The Honorees, a brand new MDC-TV show dedicated to follow up with the recipients of the MDC's Endowed Teaching Chairs program that selects distinguished professors every year who continue to demonstrate excellence in teaching, effective communications with students, and professional growth. I'm your host, Jez Katambe. Our guest today is Professor Ileana Porges West, SunTrust Bank Endowed Teaching Chair in Banking and Finance. Professor Porges West, welcome to the Honorees. I have so many questions for you.
Well, it's a pleasure for me to be here today. I look forward to getting to know you better.
I'm so glad. Before we get into our questions, we have a video to help take our viewers into your classroom. Why don't we watch?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Professor Porges West combines her banking experience on an interdisciplinary approach that merges pragmatic learning with service learning. She has served on several committees and has inspired her students to become advocates for preserving our planet for future generations.
Receiving the 2013 Endowed Teaching Chair has been one of the highlights of my life. It was awesome to know that my peers felt that I was among the best of the best and that I had received other awards as a professional. I was a top financial advisor, but at my age, after many attempts to receive it, was an incredible experience. I use a variety of activities in the classroom. I know my students are tired of sitting down all day, and so I like them to get up and move around. Recently, in a course I taught this summer, students were learning customer service behavior, and so they had to model for the class how would you open an account in a bank, how would you greet a customer.
Professor Porges West was very enthusiastic and energetic in everything she was teaching us in class. And not only was she teaching us book work, but she was also teaching us things hands-on. She gave us projects and she was very informative. She was great, and she gave us great insight in everything relating to banking.
Although I had a career in business, I used to teach Sunday school for about 12 years, so my children knew that I was one of the most popular Sunday school teachers. And then when I was getting my master's in TESOL, which I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, I worked as a tutor in an elementary school, and that sort of helped me decide that teaching was what I wanted to do with my life.
Yo le diría a la profesora Ileana, gracias. Gracias porque me has ayudado en esta tarea de aprender un foreign language. Me has ayudado a sentirme confiada a la hora de enfrentar este reto, que para mí es un gran reto, y que siga de esta manera, que es un ejemplo de profesora.
I think Miami-Dade is special because the faculty have a special connection to their students. We are not a research-based institution. Having taught at research-based institution, faculty are concerned about the research. Here at Miami-Dade, we are concerned about students first.
So, first let me say congratulations on receiving the Endowed Teaching Chair Award. I know you're not a stranger to awards, but I would love to know, how does it feel?
Well, it's wonderful. You know, when I was a little kid, I used to watch the program Queen for a Day. Well, getting the Endowed Chair is being Queen for a year. It's just so nice to get the accolades from everyone. And, you know, we all work hard, but it's very nice to be recognized. And I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Oh, that is wonderful. I'm so glad. I like that. Queen for a year. Now, I mentioned that you're really no stranger to awards. And I know in the past you won the AXA Equitable in the United States, and you were one of the first women to win that award. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, I had a career in international banking, and I left international banking to go into working for AXA Equitable. And I traveled internationally, and I was a financial advisor. And I happened to have a very good year, and I was one of the top 10 in the United States, and they took us to Paris, which was a wonderful reward for being one of the top producers.
Well, that's lovely.
And since we're a French company, we also went to visit their vineyards. And I didn't think I would really hit that level again, so it was very nice when I, received the Endowed Chair that once again I was at the top of my game.
Absolutely, and I'm sure you're going to stay there for quite some time. Your students always describe you as an eco-professor in every sense of the word, ecology, economics, and even at home. Can you tell me a little bit about your students' background and how that ties together?
Well, I teach in several disciplines. My main discipline is, now it's called the World Languages Department, and I teach people who've come to this country to learn English. And their backgrounds are as varied as mine. And I really sort of learn from my students as much as they learn from me. And I like to take them out of the classroom. We go to the Everglades, we go to film festival events. And so they really share in my interests, and they also get to broaden their worldview and learn a lot of the learning outcomes.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. So now we talked a little bit about their backgrounds and the way that you really tie their learning outcomes into the teaching experience altogether. Can you tell me a little bit about your own teaching style?
I would say I'm an out-of-the-box faculty. I'm always reinventing myself. I do different things each semester. When I was teaching a banking course, rather than just teaching the students in class about customer service, I had the students go out of the classroom. They had to go into a bank, and I told them, like, how do they treat you? And then later on, these students were going to be working in banks themselves. And so they really experienced firsthand what was good customer service on the receiving end. So then later on, when they had to deal with customers, they would know what good service was.
Well, you actually answered my next question. I had wanted to ask you about how you give your students real-world experiences, but it doesn't get much more real than that.
And in terms of, I'm an advisor to an environmental club, and we've had a lot of sustainable initiatives. And last year we worked a lot with hunger homelessness, because a lot of my students in the Hialeah campus really weren't aware of the problems we have in our community and worldwide. And so I had students who went down to work at the Miami Rescue Mission, which is blocks from Wolfson campus, where you can see homeless people.
Definitely.
And they also went to work at an orphanage for children not too far from the Hialeah campus, where children had been brought from the earthquake in Haiti. And they sort of have really
So
expanded.
your students have been all over, and they've really gotten into so many different activities. And I'm looking forward to asking you some more questions about that. We have to take a break right now. I'm your host, Jez Katambe, and you're watching The Honorees. Our conversation today is with Professor Ileana Porges West. Coming up next, Professor Porges West will tell us what changed her life after reading the book Diet for a Small Planet.
Hi everybody, welcome to the stage.
The first talent show that I did, I sang a song by a group 702.
Gospel music has a rich history amongst African Americans.
I found out I had scoliosis, and it was like an 80-degree angle.
You are a cancer survivor, stage 4.
Yes.
6-car accident.
Everything that I say or sing is what happened to me.
The Stage on MDC-TV.
Welcome back to The Honorees. I'm Jez Katambe, and our guest today is Hialeah campus professor Porges West, who weaves her educational background in anthropology, economics, ecology, business, literature, and second language acquisition to teach English for academic purposes, as well as classes in banking, business, economics, earth literacy, and sustainability. Professor Porges West, before we took a break, we were talking a little bit about how your students learn that economics is part of everything that we do. And I was wondering, is it safe to say that learning about the way economics impacts everything changes the way your students learn to use resources more efficiently?
Yes, in a English language class, not only do they teach them the language, but I teach them how to calculate their carbon footprint. And so they're aware that we have finite resources, and as individuals, we can be agents of change in this world. And most of my students are parents or will be parents, and so by educating them, I'm educating another generation too.
And in keeping with the idea of educating the next generation, sustainability is such a major issue in classrooms, in students' thoughts, in everyone's minds. And I remember you mentioned that decades ago you read a book that changed your whole life and the way that you look at sustainability and the ecology. Can you tell me a little about that experience?
I read Diet for a Small Planet, and this is back in the 70s. And it made me realize that as individuals, we need to be aware of our surroundings, and we could go the materialistic route, or we could go a route of really appreciate nature. I love to cook, I love to garden, and this is something that I've been doing for many years. And I have sort of told my students that we all have roles in how we can live our lives.
And our lives are so connected with so many different aspects and different subjects that really weave together the way that you teach your classes. And one of the things that I loved about your teaching style is the fact that you take the time to analyze the reports that your students produce and look at them from the perspective of different economic, political, and even ecological situations that impact your students' work. Can you tell me a little about how that works and what your students get out of it?
Well, I try to incorporate a lot of the learning outcomes, and so, since I have a multidisciplinary background, it really facilitates that I'm pretty knowledgeable on areas, economics, ecology, and so I have my students do reports on these different areas to learn about them, to teach the class, and really to connect with those in other parts of the world. They need to learn about social justice. They need to learn that we have finite resources and that the way the typical American lives, and many of my immigrant students, their concept of the American dream was the 2 cars, the large house, many vacations, and they're coming to realize that the American dream is not that easy, but at the same time, is that the real American dream that they really want? And so part of my role as an educator is to try to have them realize what are the things really important in life, and community, family, sharing meals. These are the things that I do with my students. I mean, not a lot of faculty do this, but we go on field trips and we all bring food and we talk, and students have a sense of community that comes out of my classroom that helps to support them when they leave my classroom.
That is amazing. I really admire the way that you interconnect global awareness and world travel with the way that your students learn. And you yourself are a world traveler. You've traveled a lot internationally. How has that impacted the way that you teach your students and the way that you connect with them?
Well, students like to know that you know a little bit about their world. And I have been able to travel to the countries that most of my students have come from in Latin America. I've had Haitian students, and they said to me, "You came to Haiti on a cruise ship." And I said, "Excuse me? I was going to the central bank. I've walked the streets of Port-au-Prince." So I think they connect with you when they know that you know their country. As someone who studied anthropology, I talked to my Mexican, my Peruvian, my Guatemalan students about their indigenous cultures. I love to cook, so when I have Ecuadorian students, I talk to them about ceviche. And I think when students know that their professor is willing to reach out to them and knows about where they come from, it makes them partners in the learning experience.
I really admire the way that you always manage to integrate your own travel and your experiences in the classroom experience. But I know you also love to get your students outside the classroom and involved. And recently, you took some of your students to hear Will Allen, the author of The Good Food Revolution. How was that?
It was awesome. These were students in a virtual business class who I gave them an extra credit opportunity to come hear an outstanding African-American business executive, athlete, social activist who was in our community, and about 30% of my virtual class showed up to hear Will Allen talk about his vision for changing America, getting back to the roots, and how we needed to grow food, and that more of them should consider careers that involved agriculture. And so many of my students in the class lived in parts of Miami that were food deserts, where they were unable to get fresh food. So they really connected with his words of wisdom. And he showed us pictures of what his daughter was doing in Chicago, where they were growing all these organic foods under a roof, because in Chicago it's freezing most of the year.
Of course.
But I have taken my students to hear Isabel Allende. We went to hear Billy Collins, a poet. And for students, one thing is to read a book. I work a lot with the Center for the Arts, where about every semester they are doing another book. And so for the students to be able to meet the poet or the author, it's an experience that they tell me they'll remember for the rest of their lives. So it's not just studying something in the classroom. I try to get them out of the classroom, whether it's the Everglades or
they're there
whatever.
And they're experiencing it, and it's amazing for them. And that really stays with them. You're absolutely right. We have to take a break for a moment, but when we get back, I have a few more questions for you about how you get your students involved.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. You're watching The Honorees. I'm Jez Katambe. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Professor Porges West will tell us all about the Yes Club and getting students involved.
Learn more about Miami-Dade College's clubs and organizations.
Hi everyone, welcome to Meet the Clubs. My name is Jessica Ruiz, and Chavkubi is a cultural organization.
Student Government Association is an organization which promotes community service.
We're doing Camilla's House and beach cleanups.
Being part of SGA at the Hialeah campus, when the students come to our campus, most of them have come from another country.
Hello everyone, you are watching Meet the Clubs, and today we have the Face Club here.
I didn't have any friends, so when I met the Face Club, I had new friends.
Welcome to Meet the Clubs.
Meet the Clubs on MDC-TV.
Welcome back to The Honorees. I'm Jez Katambe, and we're here with Professor Ileana Porges West. Can you tell me about the Yes Club and how you've gotten your students involved?
Well, the Yes Club was started, it's going to be 3 years, when I was teaching a course in sustainability, and we went and worked at several parks, and we planted trees, and we learned how to cook healthier foods. And several of my students said, we don't want this to stop. Can we continue going to the Everglades, planting trees at Amelia, having good food at lunchtime, rather than the typical pastelitos that we tended to have at the Hialeah campus? And a lot of the students cooked, and they brought in, great food, and they wanted to continue it. And so I said, sure. And so the Yes Club is part of a college-wide group of clubs that are under the auspices of the Earth Ethics Institute. I've been a member of the Earth Ethics Institute for almost as long as I've been at Miami-Dade, about 8 years. And they really have given me tremendous opportunities to learn about sustainability. I've gone to Costa Rica, I've gone to New Jersey to really learn firsthand, and I've earned a degree in earth literacy and sustainability that really helps me to teach my students. But to go back to the Yes Club, this is a group of very motivated students from all disciplines, not necessarily ecology or biology. And our mission is to teach others how to live sustainably and to be more responsible on this planet. I believe in incorporating service learning and also civic engagement into the mission of the club. And about a year ago, I had a student who said to me, Professor Porges West, you're always telling us that we should try to get the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. Why don't you get it with us? And I said, well, I don't know. That's 100 hours outside of my teaching and other responsibilities.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
And this young man said, well, why don't we all do it together? And one of my proudest moments was last July when I, stood up at Wolfson campus with about 7 of my Yes Club students, and we each received an award for 100 hours, and the club received the Gold Award for having over 1,000 hours of service to the community.
Congratulations. That's magnificent. 1,000 hours of community service and 100 hours yourself. I don't even know where to begin congratulating you on that and thanking you on behalf of everyone in the community for everything that you and the Yes Club have tried to do and everything that you've accomplished.
Well, I sort of believe you need to walk the talk. A lot of professors encourage their students to do service learning, but to be out there planting trees, feeding the homeless, we are producing a documentary on the hunger homeless situation from Ileana Homestead, so that students at our campus and at other campuses will be aware of the situation of our community, of the older people who at the end of the month are going to food shelters and food kitchens because they've run out of money. My students have even produced a song about the homeless situation in Miami. And I'd like to thank Miami-Dade North Campus for helping us produce this song. So I do a lot of things with the club. We don't just, talk about, we need to reduce our carbon footprint. We really are out there planting trees, removing endangered species, tracking endangered butterflies. So we're really involved in half a different parks in the community. It's gotten to the point where I don't even have to look for service learning opportunities. People are always calling me. They know I have a very responsible group of students, and they go, can the Yes Club do that? A highlight recently was that there were a group of young men and women from the U.S. Olympic team that were here in Miami.
Oh, wow.
And they asked the Yes Club to partner with them to plant trees at Virginia Key. And so this was really awesome experience to meet people who were involved in the Olympics.
Absolutely.
And for, one of my students was even interviewed for Miami-Dade TV about, how she saw herself as an agent of change in the world.
Now, agent of change, that's a term that I really like hearing from our students. It gives them a sense of their own responsibility to the world around them, to the community around them. And I know it's something that you really encourage your students in the Yes Club to feel, and to feel that it's a part of themselves, that they are agents of change and they are capable of accomplishing great things in the community. Now, I know that you're very passionate about biodiversity and bioregions and about engaging with the community at large. Now, how do you encourage your students in the classroom to do this?
Well, I bring the connection of outside the classroom into the classroom. I usually have field trips where the whole class participates in service learning. So on a 3-day weekend or on a Saturday or Sunday, I will give my students in a particular class the opportunity, if we were studying about endangered species in the Everglades, to say, okay, let's go to the Everglades. And I'm just amazed how many of them on a Sunday, their only day off, will show up at 8:30 in the morning at the Everglades. And I also believe that they should be introducing their children and their friends and family members. So most of my field trips and service learning are open to whoever wants to come. And so a lot of my students, have brought their small children to plant trees, and then their children go back to their classrooms, or they learn about, why we need to remove invasives. So I'm educating people outside the classroom, and then when they come back, they say, when's the next trip? And students who are no longer in my class are emailing me, and, it's a way that the Yes Club has continued to grow, and our service learning activities keep on growing because students are participating even after they're outside of my class.
In a sense, you've taken your students and the Yes Club from being not just agents of change, but they've been charged with becoming educators themselves. And I think that that is one of the most admirable things that a student can do, to go out and teach what they've learned from you as their professor to their family and to their friends. And I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you. I also, since I tend to teach higher level ESL courses, I also have my students go and make presentations in lower level courses. So then they feel confident. One of my passions is autism. A very good friend of mine has an autistic child. I've been walking to stop autism and raise money for over 10 years. And so my students and now the Yes Club are involved in Walking for Autism. They do presentations on autism, and they visit lower level classes to also inform other students about, if you're a mother with a young child, what are the signs of normal development, or what should you go to the doctor for?
They become, again, they become empowered to educate those around them. And that's amazing. That's all the time we have for today. I wish we had more time to talk about your students' achievements, but I hope that we'll be able to see you again very soon. I'm Jessica Tambe. You've been watching The Honorees. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.